If you're experiencing physical pain and doctors say everything's fine, this video will change your life forever. Louise Hay discovered that each physical pain is actually a cry from your soul. And today, you'll understand exactly what your body is trying to tell you. Have you ever noticed how some people never get sick, while others are constantly visiting doctors? Or how certain pains always seem to appear at the same times in your life? When you're stressed? When you argue with someone? When you feel overwhelmed? Louise Hay, author of the book that sold over 50 million copies worldwide, discovered this isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern, a code your body uses to communicate with you. Imagine waking up one morning and your headache is gone forever, not because you took medication, but because you finally understood what it was trying to teach you. Louise Hay did exactly that. She healed cervical cancer without surgery, simply by decoding the message her body was screaming. And she taught millions of people to do the same. That back pain you've been carrying for years, the one that always appears at the end of the day, when you feel like you're carrying the world on your shoulders. Or that neck tension that arises every time you have to make a difficult decision. That stomachache that comes whenever you're anxious, nervous, worried about the future. Louise discovered that each of these pains has a specific emotional meaning, a perfect map of what's going on in your inner life. And when you understand this secret language of your body, healing happens naturally, without medications, without surgeries, only with understanding and self-love. I know how you feel right now. You've tried everything. Physical therapy that provides relief for a few days, and then the pain returns. Medications that mask the symptom but never cure the cause. Tests that show nothing wrong, leaving you even more confused and frustrated. Doctors who look at you as if the pain is imaginary, when you know it's real, painfully real. Maybe you've started to believe that you'll have to live with this pain forever, that it's part of you now, that it's normal to age in pain, that it's normal to live tired, tense, uncomfortable in your own body. But what if I told you that none of this is true? What if your pain isn't your enemy but your greatest ally? What if it's actually your soul trying to show you something you haven't yet been able to see? Something about your life, your relationships, your fears, your unhealed hurts? Louise Hay revolutionized medicine by proving that our body is a perfect mirror of our thoughts and emotions. She wasn't a doctor. She wasn't a scientist. She was an ordinary woman who decided to investigate the connection between mind and body when she received a diagnosis that could have been fatal. She said, "Every cell in your body responds to every thought you think and every word you speak. Your body is constantly listening to your inner dialogue and responding to it." Seems abstract? Let me give you real examples that will make you understand immediately. A woman Louise helped suffered from arthritis in her hands for 15 years. The joints were so inflamed and stiff that she could barely open a jar or hold a pen. Doctors said it was genetic, that it would worsen with age, that she would need to take anti-inflammatory drugs for the rest of her life. But when Louise asked about her emotional life, she discovered something revealing. This woman harbored deep resentment towards her ex-husband who had abandoned her. Anger she had never processed. Resentment she carried like a weight every day. The arthritis was literally stiffening her hands, just as she had stiffened her heart. Louise taught her a simple technique of emotional forgiveness. Not forgiveness for the ex-husband, but forgiveness for herself, releasing the anger that was poisoning her own body. In 3 months, the arthritis had completely disappeared. Completely. Doctors called it a miracle. Louise called it understanding. Another case that marked Louise was that of a man with chronic back pain. He worked in an office, had good posture, exercised, but the pain persisted for years. When Louise investigated more deeply, she discovered that he felt financially insecure, always worried about not being able to support his family. He literally felt he had no support in life. The back pain was his body saying, "You're carrying an emotional weight you can't sustain." When he learned to trust himself more and release his financial fears through specific affirmations, the pain disappeared in a matter of weeks. You may be wondering, how is it possible for an emotion to create such real physical pain? Louise explained that our thoughts are pure energy, and energy in motion creates matter. When you hold on to anger, sadness, fear, or resentment in your body, this stagnant emotional energy transforms into muscle tension, inflammation, and eventually, chronic pain. Think about the last time you were very nervous. Didn't your stomach churn instantly? Didn't your heart race? Didn't your muscles tense up? This is your body reacting in real time to your thoughts and emotions. Now imagine this process happening day after day, month after month, year after year. This is the true origin of most of our chronic pains. Louise Hay wasn't a special or different person when she began her journey of self-healing. In fact, she had one of the most traumatic childhoods you can imagine. She was sexually abused at the age of 5 by a neighbor. She grew up in a dysfunctional family, left school early, went through abusive and destructive relationships. At the age of 50, when she discovered cervical cancer, she was alone, without money, without family support. The doctor said she would need immediate surgery, followed by aggressive treatments. Louise looked at that diagnosis and had a revelation. My body is telling me something and I need to find out what. She had two choices: surrender to fear and follow only the medical protocol, or discover the emotional message behind the illness. Louise chose to listen, and what her body was screaming was clear. You need to forgive yourself for what happened in your childhood. You need to stop blaming yourself. You need to love yourself unconditionally. Cervical cancer, according to the chart Louise developed, is directly related to sexual guilt, trauma in the area of femininity, feelings of not being good enough as a woman. It all made sense in her life. Louise immersed herself in a deep process of emotional healing. She forgave those who hurt her. She forgave herself and completely changed the way she spoke to herself. She replaced self-criticism with self-love, traded guilt for compassion, transformed fear into confidence. The result? The cancer disappeared completely. No surgery, no chemotherapy, no radiation, just a profound transformation of her emotional relationship with herself. Doctors were perplexed. Louise Hay knew exactly what had happened. She had healed the cause, not just the symptom. After this experience, Louise dedicated the rest of her life to teaching others this language of the body. She realized it wasn't an isolated case, that millions of people were suffering physically from unresolved emotional causes. Now I want you to pause for a second and think about your pain. Close your eyes if you need to. Where is it located exactly in your body? Is it a sharp pain or a constant pressure? Does it worsen at certain times of the day or in certain emotional situations? When did it first appear in your life? What was happening in your emotional world at that time? Louise Hay created a complete map of the emotional body based on decades of observation and thousands of healing cases. Each part of our body corresponds to a specific area of our emotional life. It's as if our body is an open book, telling our inner story through physical symptoms. Headaches, for example, which are one of the most common complaints among women, are usually related to excessive self-criticism, perfectionism, and the mental pressure we put on ourselves. It's literally as if you're beating your own head with negative thoughts. I should be better. I should do more. I'm not enough. Why did I make that mistake? If you suffer from frequent migraines, Louise Hay would say you probably push yourself too hard, have difficulty relaxing, and live under constant pressure to be perfect. The migraine is your body screaming, stop punishing yourself, you're being too cruel to yourself. Shoulder and neck problems are incredibly common, especially among women who care for everyone around them. Louise Hay discovered that we literally carry the weight of our problems and responsibilities on our shoulders. When you feel like you're carrying the world on your back, when everyone depends on you, when you can't say no, your shoulders start to scream in pain. Neck tension indicates mental rigidity, stubbornness, a refusal to see other points of view. It's as if you're literally stiff about changing your mind or considering new perspectives. This often happens with controlling people or those who are afraid of losing control of situations. Lower back pain is a modern epidemic, and Louise Hay discovered that this usually indicates a lack of emotional or financial support. It's the deep fear of not being able to support yourself or your family manifesting physically. Will I be able to pay the bills? What if I lose my job? Who will help me if I need it? Digestive problems are directly connected to the difficulty of digesting difficult life situations. When you can't emotionally process something that happened, when you constantly swallow your feelings, when you can't express your feelings, your stomach stops processing food properly as well. Gastritis, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, all these digestive problems are ways your body is saying, you're swallowing things you shouldn't be swallowing. Situations, words, treatments that are bad for you. Knee pain represents inflexibility, hurt pride, difficulty bending or asking for help. People with chronic knee problems are usually very proud, have difficulty showing vulnerability, or accepting help from others. Hip problems are related to the fear of moving forward, of making important decisions about the future. The hip is literally the joint that allows us to walk, to move forward. When we are afraid of the future, afraid of change, this joint locks up. Foot pain indicates a fear of taking the next step in life, insecurity about the path you're on. The feet are our base, our stability. When we don't know if we're going in the right direction, they start to hurt. But the most fascinating thing of all is that Louise Hay discovered that when you change the emotional pattern, the physical pain disappears automatically. It's as if you finally answered the question your body has been asking for so long. As if you said, I understand the message, now I'm going to take care of the cause. Let me tell you about Sarah, a 35-year-old woman who wrote to me after applying Louise Hay's teachings. She suffered from debilitating migraines since she was 20, crises that lasted for days, leaving her bedridden, unable to work, care for her children, or have any quality of life. Sarah had already spent a fortune on neurologists, preventive medications, MRI scans, alternative treatments. Nothing worked lastingly. The crises kept coming back with full force. When Sarah discovered Louise Hay's teachings about migraines being related to the excessive pressure we put on ourselves, she began to observe patterns. She realized that the crises always appeared when she pushed herself to be perfect at work, when she had family conflict she didn't know how to resolve, when she felt overwhelmed with multiple responsibilities. The migraine was literally her head exploding under emotional pressure. Sarah began to apply the specific technique that Louise Hay taught for this type of pain. Every morning, she looked in the mirror and practiced affirmations of self-compassion. I allow myself to be human. I allow myself to make mistakes. I am enough exactly as I am. I release the need to be perfect. But the most important thing was that Sarah changed her behavior patterns. She started saying no to unnecessary commitments. She delegated responsibilities she didn't need to carry alone. She stopped criticizing herself for every little mistake. In 2 weeks, the migraines began to decrease in intensity. In 2 months, they had practically disappeared. In 6 months, Sarah was completely free of the crises that had tormented her for 15 years. She wrote to me saying, I didn't believe it could be so simple, but when you understand the language of your body, healing is natural. Traditional medicine treats symptoms. Louise Hay taught us to treat causes, and the cause of all chronic physical pain is always an emotional pattern that needs to be identified and healed. That's why you can take medication your whole life and never truly heal, because you're treating the alarm, not the fire. Your pain is your body's fire alarm. Your unprocessed emotions are the fire. Most people just want to silence the alarm. But Louise Hay teaches you how to put out the fire for good. You might be thinking, well, but my pain is real. It's not psychological. It's not all in my head. Louise never denied that pain is real. On the contrary, what she discovered is that real pain has a real emotional origin. And when you address the emotional origin, the physical symptom disappears naturally, permanently. Do you know why so many people live taking anti-inflammatories, muscle relaxants, painkillers without ever truly healing? Because they're trying to silence the message, not understand it. It's like putting tape over the car's dashboard light when it comes on. The light stops bothering you, but the mechanical problem is still there, worsening. Louise developed a revolutionary technique she called the mirror of healing, a simple yet profoundly transformative way to dialogue with your body and heal the emotional cause of any pain. And today, you're going to learn exactly how to apply this technique at home, without spending a cent, without special equipment. But before I teach you the method, let me show you how it works in practice through other real cases that will impress you. I met a woman named Claudia who suffered from fibromyalgia for 8 years, widespread pain throughout her body, extreme fatigue, disturbed sleep. She was taking 6 different medications and still lived with constant pain. Doctors said it was a chronic condition, that she would have to learn to live with it. When Claudia applied Louise Hay's technique, she discovered something shocking. The fibromyalgia had begun shortly after a traumatic divorce, when she felt rejected, unloved, unwanted. Louise teaches that fibromyalgia is literally the whole body aching for lack of self-love, for excessive self-criticism. Claudia was physically punishing herself for feeling like she had failed as a wife. Her entire body was screaming, "Stop hurting yourself with cruel thoughts about yourself." In 6 months, applying the technique you'll learn now, Claudia reduced her medication by 80% and regained her quality of life. Another case that marked me was that of Robert, a 45-year-old businessman with uncontrolled high blood pressure. Even taking medications, his pressure was constantly fluctuating, especially in stressful situations. According to Louise Hay, high blood pressure represents long-standing emotional problems that haven't been resolved. Suppressed anger, old resentments. Robert discovered he harbored deep resentment towards his father, who humiliated him in childhood. This anger had been literally pressuring his arteries for decades. When he applied the emotional forgiveness technique that Louise teaches, his blood pressure normalized in a matter of months. His cardiologist was perplexed. Now, the technique that Louise Hay developed has 4 simple steps, but each one needs to be done with intention and consistency. It's not instant magic, but it's guaranteed transformation if you follow exactly as I'm going to teach you. First step, emotional identification of pain. Grab a pen and paper now. Write down where your main pain is and when it first appeared. Then, ask this crucial question. What was going on in my emotional life when this pain began? Be brutally honest with yourself. Was it after a relationship that ended? After a professional disappointment? When you started feeling overwhelmed? When someone hurt you deeply? The connection may not be obvious at first, but it always exists. Louise said, "Every physical illness is a manifestation of a thought or emotion that you have repeated for a long time. So identify which emotion your pain represents. Fear, anger, sadness, guilt, resentment." Second step, dialogue with the body. This may seem strange at first, but Louise discovered that our bodies respond when we talk to them consciously. Place your hand on the area that hurts and say aloud, "I see you. I hear you. What are you trying to teach me?" Then, in silence, pay attention to what comes to your mind. It could be memories, sensations, words, images. Don't judge. Just observe. Your body is trying to show you the emotional origin of the pain. One of my students, Emily, did this with chronic pain in her right shoulder when she put her hand on her shoulder and asked what it was trying to teach her. The image of her elderly mother, whom she cared for alone, immediately came to mind. The shoulder was screaming, "You're carrying a weight that's not just yours." Third step, specific healing affirmation. Louise created specific affirmations for each type of pain, based on the emotional cause, but you can also create your own, following this formula. I release, plus, the negative emotion, plus, and I embrace, plus, the opposite quality. For example, if your pain is related to anger, you would say, "I release all anger from my heart and embrace forgiveness and peace." If it's related to fear, "I release all fear from my body and embrace trust and security." For headaches, "I release all the pressure I put on myself and embrace self-compassion and lightness." For back pain, "I release the feeling of lack of support and embrace the confidence that I am cared for and sustained by life." For digestive problems, "I release everything I can't digest in my life and embrace only what nourishes and strengthens me." Fourth step, daily mirror practice. This is the most powerful part of Louise's technique. Every morning, when you wake up, and every night before you go to sleep, look into your own eyes in the mirror and repeat your specific healing affirmation 3 times with real feeling. Louise said that the mirror doesn't lie. It shows exactly how you relate to yourself. At first, it may be uncomfortable to look into your own eyes while speaking lovingly about yourself, but this resistance is exactly what needs to be healed. She teaches, if you can't look in the mirror and say, "I love you," how do you expect someone else to? The mirror is where real healing happens, because it's where you finally change the way you talk to yourself. Let me give you a complete example of how to apply the entire technique. Let's say you suffer from frequent headaches. First, you identify that this pain began when you took on a very responsible position at work. You realize that you push yourself to be perfect and criticize yourself for every mistake. In the dialogue with your body, you put your hand on your forehead and ask, "What are you trying to teach me?" The answer that comes is, "Stop being so hard on me. I deserve kindness." Your specific affirmation would be, I release all pressure and self-criticism from my body and embrace self-compassion and kindness towards myself. And every day, in the mirror, you look yourself in the eyes and repeat this phrase 3 times, really feeling what you're saying. Louise Hay guaranteed that in 21 days of consistent practice, you would begin to see real changes, both in your physical pain and in your emotional relationship with yourself. Why 21 days? Because that's how long it takes the brain to create new neural pathways, new ways of thinking and feeling. But there's something important that Louise always emphasized. You don't need to completely believe in the technique for it to work. You just need to be willing to try. Healing happens through practice, not through prior belief. She used to say, "I don't care if you think it's silly at first. Just do it. The results will convince you." Not my words. I met a woman named Patricia, who was extremely skeptical. She had suffered from carpal tunnel syndrome for 3 years, with constant pain and tingling in her hands. She had tried physical therapy, acupuncture, anti-inflammatories. Nothing solved it definitively. Patricia only agreed to try Louise's technique because her daughter insisted. She did the affirmations without believing, just to prove it wouldn't work. But her body began to respond even without her mind being convinced. In 2 weeks, the tingling decreased. In a month, the pain had been reduced by half. In 3 months, Patricia was completely healed and became one of the greatest advocates of Louise Hay's teachings. What Patricia discovered is that carpal tunnel syndrome, according to Louise, is related to anger and frustration about perceived injustices in life. Patricia was really furious about several unfair situations she had lived through, and that anger was literally locking up her hands. When she began to release that anger through affirmations and forgiveness, her hands were also freed. It was a connection she would never have made on her own, but it made perfect sense when she understood. Louise also teaches a complementary technique called the letter of forgiveness to the body. You write a letter apologizing to your body for not understanding its messages before, for treating it badly with self-criticism, for not giving it the attention it deserved. It may seem strange, but our bodies really respond when we apologize to them. Louise said we treat our bodies worse than we treat our worst enemy. We criticize every imperfection, complain about every pain, curse when something doesn't work the way we want. In the letter, you write something like, "Dear body, forgive me for not understanding that you were trying to help me through pain. Forgive me for being so harsh and critical of you. From today on, I promise to listen to you, honor you, and treat you with the love you deserve." Then you read the letter aloud, looking in the mirror, and you can even burn the paper as a symbol of renewing your relationship with your own body. One of the most beautiful things about Louise's teachings is that she transforms you from a victim into the protagonist of your own healing. Instead of waiting for someone outside to solve your problem, you discover that you have the power to heal yourself through self-love and emotional understanding. Louise used to say, "The point of power is always in the present moment. It doesn't matter how long you've had this pain. It doesn't matter how many years you've carried this emotion. You can start changing right now." And she was right. I've seen women heal from arthritis they've had for decades. I've seen people free themselves from chronic migraines in a matter of weeks. I've seen cases of fibromyalgia, back pain, digestive problems, all resolved when the person finally understood and healed the emotional cause. But there's something Louise always emphasized. Emotional healing does not replace medical care when necessary. She said to use both paths together. Treat the physical body and treat the emotional cause. The combination of the two is what creates complete and lasting healing. What happens when you apply this technique consistently is a transformation that goes far beyond physical pain. You completely change the way you relate to yourself. You stop being your own enemy and become your best friend. Louise said, "When you truly love yourself, you take care of your body, your thoughts, your emotions. You stop accepting relationships that hurt you, jobs that exhaust you, situations that diminish you. Self-love is the basis of all healing." Imagine what your life would be like if you never felt that pain that has been with you for so long. How would it be to wake up every day with a free, relaxed, comfortable body? How would it be to have total energy, to do everything you love, without limitations, without discomfort? But also imagine what it would be like to truly transform the way you treat yourself, to stop criticizing yourself, to stop demanding so much of yourself, to stop accepting less than you deserve. This is the deepest transformation that happens when you apply Louise Hay's teachings. You don't just heal the pain, You heal the root of all pain, the lack of self-love, and when you truly love yourself, your body responds with health, vitality, and natural well-being. Louise lived to be 90 years old, healthy and active, until the end. She died peacefully, without chronic diseases, without debilitating pain. She proved in her own life that it's possible to age healthily when you take care of your emotions with the same dedication that you take care of your body. She used to say, "You are not destined to suffer. Suffering is optional. Pain may appear, but suffering is a choice you make when you refuse to listen and learn from the pain." So, the question is, are you ready to make a different choice? Are you ready to discover what your body is trying to teach you and heal the real cause of your pain? Are you ready to become your own healer? Because the technique is in your hands now. The knowledge is here. All you need is the courage to begin and the consistency to continue. Louise Hay transformed millions of lives around the world, and your life could be the next. Start today. Get a pen and paper. Identify the emotion behind your pain. Create your healing affirmation. Look in the mirror and start talking to yourself with the love you've always deserved. Louise said that change begins with a decision. The decision to stop being a victim and become a protagonist. The decision to stop suffering and start healing. The decision to love yourself enough to do things differently. If this video spoke to your heart, if something here made sense to you, don't ignore this sign. Subscribe to the channel, because this was no coincidence. Your soul brought you here because it's time to begin your healing journey. Louise Hay always said, "Everything is all right. You are exactly where you need to be, learning exactly what you need to learn." And today, you learned that you have the power to heal yourself. This is huge. This is powerful. Embrace this understanding. Really let it sink in. You possess the incredible ability to heal, to mend, to become whole again. This isn't some abstract concept. This is your inherent strength, your inner resilience. It's a wellspring of healing energy, always available to you, waiting to be tapped. Louise Hay reminds us that you have this power. It's not something you have to search for. It's not a hidden talent. It's already within you. It's part of your very being. This power, this ability to heal, it's not just some theory or a wishful thought. It's a tangible force, a reality you can access anytime you choose. It's available to you right now. This isn't about waiting for some magical moment or some future event. No, your new life, your journey of healing, it starts today. Think about it. You have the power to shape your reality, your experiences. Your body, mind, and soul are all connected. Everything you think, feel, and believe impacts your physical being. Louise Hay teaches us this. Every thought, every emotion resonates deeply within you, influencing your health and well-being. This is your opportunity, your chance to start living the life you've always dreamed of, a life filled with joy, vitality, and inner peace. Let this understanding be your guide. Let it fuel your journey. Let this be the day you embrace your power and begin your healing journey. The power is within you, always has been, always will be. Use it. Your new life begins now.